let's try that. Here, I'll show you how this works. All right, so we have a searchlight that is shaped like a parabola and made into a bowl like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The parabola bowl is 16 inches wide from rim to rim. So that distance is 16 inches. Okay?
Yeah.
And it's 12 inches deep. So that distance is 12 inches.
Mm.
Sketch the graph of the reflector, which we've just done, and include significant points and write an equation of the parabola. Well, first of all, a parabola has various formats. You have y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. That is vertex format, where h and k would be the coordinates of that vertex right there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You do have some other equations for a parabola, but our basic job here would be, let's draw a cross section. Let's put an XY plane on there so that that vertex occurs exactly at the origin.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, we know that the vertex is, what's h and k of our vertex?
What do they do, or what are they?
What are they? In other words, the way I do my tutoring is I try to get you to answer most of the questions. That's the secret of learning. It's not listening to me tell you what the answers are. It's you figuring out the answers.
Okay.
Okay. So I've drawn an XY plane on there. Where's my vertex in my XY plane?
It would be
What's this point right here? What's the vertex?
Yeah, is it 1216 or what is?
It's zero. It's 0, 0.
0, 0.
Because I've put the y-axis there and the x-axis there, that is at the origin. I've drawn this plane so that my vertex is at the origin.
Okay.
So now I can write this equation. I know h is 0, and I know k is 0. So that is the equation of my parabola. Is all I have to do is solve for a.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I've got a y and an x. Do I know a y and an x point? Do I know what that point is right there? On the xy coordinate system, what is that point right there? It's 16 inches wide, so how far to the right are we on the x coordinate?
Would it be 12?
It'd be half of 16.
Oh.
In other words, make your eyes go left to right. We're talking about the x coordinate. So the x coordinate of that point is 8. The y coordinate is 12. In other words, if I were to put dimensions on that, or coordinate points on that, that would be 8, 12.
Okay.
So I know that is on my parabola. So I can plug in 8 for x, 12 for y, and I can figure out a. So 12 equals a times 8 squared. So 12 equals 64a. A equals 12 over 64, which is 6 over 32, which is 3/16. So A equals 3/16. So their final question is write the equation of the parabola. Okay, well, there's the equation of the parabola, and all we needed was A. So, and the y and the x stay there. Whenever you're writing a general equation, the y and the x are there, and what you're really filling in are the other variables.
Okay.
So what's A?
3/16.
X squared. There's the equation of that parabola. No matter which point you pick from that graph, it will satisfy that equation. Notice that when x is 0, y is 0.
Yeah.
When x is 8, then y is going to be 12. Or when x is -8, this point right here, that's -8, 12. Okay, so this equation fits that entire parabola word problem. Now, that's one of the harder problems. Usually, I'm a huge believer in starting. Do you ski?
Do I ski?
Huh?
Yeah.
Well, if you were teaching somebody else to ski, you'd start on the beginning slopes, correct?
Yeah.
And then you go to the medium slopes.
Yep.
And then you go to the black slopes. You don't start on the black slopes.
Yeah.
Well, I feel the same way about teaching math. And unfortunately, an awful lot of teachers, they like to teach starting on the black slopes. I don't know why, but math tends to do that. And I don't like it, but that's one of the harder problems that you're going to encounter when dealing with parabolas. Let's look at number 2. This is a much easier problem.
Yeah.
Here, let me write it out. I'm going to write it out large. I don't like having to read all of this small print. All right, it says complete the square of the following equations and put them in vertex format. What is vertex format again?
Is it vertex format? Is that just the y equals ax, or well?
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, ax minus h squared plus k.
Yeah, it's called vertex format because the h and the k are the vertex. Okay, so the last problem, I set it up. In other words, I drew my xy plane so that that vertex would be at the origin. I had my choice. I could draw it anywhere I wanted. It made it easiest if I drew it at the origin. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to take that equation and put it into that format. Okay. Well, the way you do it is completing the square, and when you complete the square, you gather the x terms together, like that. Notice that I haven't changed anything.
Yeah.
In other words, I've started with that, and I still have that. Now let's complete the square. So, how do you complete the square? When I say let's complete the square, I mean inside the parentheses. I have to do something with a term right there. How do I get that term? What do I have to do?
I don't really know.
Okay. You have to take half of the coefficient of the x term, which is 2, and square it and add it.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I just arbitrarily added 4 to the left side of the equation,
Yeah.
so I have to subtract 4 from the left side of the equation. Now, this is still identical to what we started with.
Yeah.
So all I've done is add 4 and subtract 4 from the same side of the equation. The advantage of doing that is that this part right here, because of the way I did it, because I took half of that and squared it, I'm always going to be able to write that as x plus 2 quantity squared. Notice that x plus 2 quantity squared equals x squared plus 4x plus 4.
Yeah.
Combine those two numbers, and I have plus 6. And there's my equation in Vertex Format.
All right. Yeah.
Okay? In other words, if I were to expand that out, I would get this, x squared plus 4x plus 10. The advantage in having it in Vertex Format is that I know exactly where the vertex is. In other words, if they say graph this one, I don't really know where to begin.
Yeah.
But if they say graph this one, where's my vertex?
2, 6.
Remember, it's x minus h.
Oh, yeah. So it would be -2.
-2, exactly. H has to be a -2.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it wouldn't work. If h was a positive 2, this would say x plus 2. If h is a -2, then it would say x plus 2. So I know that the vertex x coordinate is there. What's the y coordinate?
Be 6.
Hold on, I screwed up here. Let me erase that. So the x coordinate is at -2. The y coordinate is at positive 6. So I'm going to label that point -2, 6. And does this parabola open up or down? What's A? Remember, this is the standard vertex format. Well, this is what we got. What's A?
Well, we don't really. It's
A is
not
1.
really there.
A is 1.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So it would be positive.
But it's positive. Positive 1, which means it opens up. Our parabola is going to look like this. Can you see what I'm writing over there? Here,
Yeah.
use a different color. That's what our parabola is going to look like. Whenever you're trying to graph a quadratic, the most important point is the vertex. So the most important format is the vertex format. There are a couple of other formats that you'll run into, but you may not have yet, and that's fine. The vertex format is a perfect place to start.
Yeah.
All right. Let's have a look at some of these other problems here. Okay, let's look at problem B. X plus 3 equals x squared. So it says, in other words, there would be various ways to solve this, but the best way is, well, not the best way. They're asking you to solve it by completing the square. Okay. So what's the first step?
Well, don't you want to get that x plus 3 over by x squared?
You got it. And then I'm going to switch the order also. You see how I get to that step?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when you're completing the square, you want to deal with the variables only, not the constant.
Okay.
So what am I going to put parentheses around?
The x squared and the x.
Now I want to complete the square inside the parentheses. So I'm going to have something like this. I'm going to leave room to complete the square. I still got my minus 3. Now, how do I complete the square again?
So you don't you take half of
half the
the
coefficient. What's the coefficient of the middle term?
1, -1?
Okay, take half of that.
So 1/2, or well, -1/2, and then don't you square it?
Square it and add it. It's always being added because even if you square a negative number, it's going to be positive. So it doesn't really matter whether it's -1 or +1. Half of it is going to be either -1/2 or +1/2. And when you square either one of those, you get 1/4. Problem is, I just changed the equation. I started with that. I no longer have that. I just added a 4th.
Yeah.
So what do I got to do to make it the same as what I started with?
You have to subtract a 4th from the -3.
From the same side. And sometimes with completing the square, this number is on the other side. And then you have to do, in other words, if I added 1/4 to the left, I got to add 1/4 to the right. But in these cases, I'm doing everything on one side of the equation. So if I'm adding 1/4 to the left, I got to subtract 1/4 from the left. Now, the key, whenever you complete the square, by definition, you're going to be able to write this as a linear term. Squared. Now, what goes there? What did you get when you took half of that coefficient?
1/4.
You got 1/2.
Or yeah, 1/2.
That's what goes there. Always.
Oh yeah, and then
whatever you got that you had to square, that's what goes there.
Okay.
Okay. And now I combine those two. What's -3 minus 1/4? -3 minus 1/4 equals what?
2.
Okay, here we go. It's actually 3 1/4. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
We got 5 minutes. I'm going to cover that. There's your equation right there. You put it in vertex format by completing the square. And it's in perfect vertex format. You could say y equals x minus 1/2 squared minus 3 1/4.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we only have 5 minutes left. I want to make sure I show you this. To me, this is the most important thing you can do to improve your math score or your math ability. It's going to sound ridiculous to you, but it's the foundation of all math problems that I run into. I've been a tutor for 10 years. Whenever somebody has problems with algebra or geometry or trig or calculus, it's almost always because they have problems here. So I want you to treat this as a video game. For the next 2 minutes, I just want you to yell out the answer. I'll write it down as quickly as possible.
All right. So would it be 7?
Next.
-4.
Next.
-7.
What's 27 divided by 3?
27.
It's 9.
Yeah, 9, sorry.
So it's -9. What I like is you gave me the sign first, and that's always what you should do. Always give me the sign first. Now, this is the one that causes people problems.
-10.
They're good. Let's just go over how we do this. Because you missed it on one of those problems, and that's why I went to this page. But first of all, the reason people have problems with this is because we're looking at two negative signs. Well,
Yeah.
one of them really isn't a negative sign. That one
Mm.
is. That's a negative sign. What's this one?
Yeah. That one's just a subtracting.
That's just subtraction. So here's what I tell everybody to do. When you are subtracting and there are other negative signs in the problem, then change it to an addition sign. I can automatically change that to an addition, but what I have to do is change the sign of what was being subtracted. Well, what was being subtracted was a positive 8, but now I'm going to add a negative 8. So now the problem becomes this, and nobody misses this. Everybody gets this right.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's just -10.
Yeah. So by changing the problem to an addition problem, it eliminates all confusion.
Yeah.
And this is truly the one mathematical process that everybody seems to forget by the time they get to high school.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, this will cause you more problems if you make mistakes here than anything else. It's going to be impossible for you to do good in algebra if you can't do this. This is the foundation. It's like the foundation of a house.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have a strong foundation if you're going to be able to do algebra, geometry, precalculus, trig, and everything else.
Yeah.
Okay. So here, I'm going to do one thing here. If you open up your GoToMeeting panel, I'm going to copy and paste this. You see it on your chat window?
Yeah.
Click on it. Should open it up in your browser on your computer. Just save it so you can get back to it. You know how to save it as a favorite? What browser are you using? You're using Google Chrome, using Internet Explorer?
Safari.
Safari. It should have something in the upper right hand. You see where I have a star? That would save it. I want it to save it. Figure out how to save this so you can get back to it.
Okay.
Okay?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Okay, that's all you need to be able to do. And believe it or not, this is not that easy to find. I spent months trying to find digital flashcards.
Yeah.
Tested a student's ability to add, subtract, multiply, and divide positive and negative numbers. And that's what you have to do all the time when you're solving algebra formulas, is you have to add, subtract, multiply, and divide single-digit positive and negative numbers. So if you don't have that skill, you got no chance. And treat this like a video game. Spend 5 minutes a night on this page, and I guarantee you, I can tell you're smart enough that I guarantee you in a couple of weeks you'll be perfect. You will not be making any mistakes. It is all about memory. You don't even have to try. Just treat it as a video game and just go through it. And after a couple of weeks, you'll find that you know it exactly. You don't ever make mistakes, and that's what you want. That's the skill you want to be good in math.
Yeah.
I know it sounds silly because this is 4th and 5th grade arithmetic. What happens with most people is they never really get perfect at this, and then they go to the calculator and they start relying on their calculator. And once you go to the calculator, you're never going to get any better at doing this mentally.
Yeah.
In fact, you're only going to get worse. So try to avoid using the calculator on the single-digit operations.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
All right, Matt, hopefully this gives you a chance to see what an online session is like.
Yep.
I've also recorded this, and I will send a copy of that recording to you by probably tonight or tomorrow morning.
All right.
And you'll be able to review it if you like.
Yeah.
But I think your parents know how to schedule a session online, and the next session you can schedule on your own. But for now, that'll do it. So
All right.
I will talk to you later, Matt. Good luck.
All right. Thank you.